Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Christy and happy Halloween. I hope you guys have some spooky plans in store for the evening, or are at least looking forward to seeing the trick-or-treaters come by. I am going on a ghost walk in Guthrie, which is supposed to be the most haunted town in Oklahoma, and I'm going no matter how bad I feel. I told my daughter that I'm going if it kills me, so stay tuned. Friday was a big day. It was finally the day in the Delphi murders. And today we're going to talk about the updates that we have, what we know. There's still a lot we don't know. They did a presser this morning, which I have recorded. I'm not going to play it in this video. It's about 20 minutes long. But if you didn't see it, you want to see it, you want to go over it a little bit more in depth, let me know in the comments and we can absolutely do that. Because like I said, I did record it. They got this guy, Richard Allen, and he has been charged with 2 counts of murder and is being held without bond. And it's kind of crazy. After 5 years, we finally have a name and a face to put with Bridge Guy. So I assume since you're here, you're probably familiar with the Delphi case, but in case you're not, I found a really good timeline of events that we can go over. We'll start at the beginning and work our way to where we're at now. Like I said, I started deep diving this case way before I started my channel. I followed it from the beginning. You might know it as the Snapchat murders because it was called that early on. And since then, it's kind of just developed into the Delphi murders because it happened in Delphi, Indiana. And in all of the deep diving I did through the years, I've had multiple suspects, but this guy, never one of them. I've seen lists of people's names that different people combined of potential suspects. This guy was never mentioned. When they said that he was hiding in plain sight, this guy really was. And it's scary. And it's sick because, you know, he is in the same town with the families. We'll get into it a little bit more, but, you know, they've had interactions and it's just a lot to wrap your mind around. I always assumed he was from Delphi or he worked in Delphi, at least around the time of the murders. Well, he lived and worked in Delphi before that, during that, and up until he was arrested. Married, has a daughter, just, you know, just a guy. And it sounds like nobody really had any reason to suspect that he was the guy, that he was Bridge Guy. So this is the poster that we're all familiar with. It's got all the tip line information, which in the press conference they said all of the ways to submit tips are still available. And they said if there are any other person or persons involved, I don't know that they think that there's anyone else involved, or if they just want more information about this guy now that we know who he is. Maybe people that know him could give them more information about his activities around that time, after that time, things like that. I don't know. But they are still looking for tips. They said it's still an open and active investigation. And from what I understand, they didn't say it at the press conference, they would not answer the question. But it sounds like he's not cooperating with police. So they need still all the help they can get. So this is the poster, and then here is the infamous recording. As you know, Libby, for whatever reason, I'm assuming, she had that instinct that something's off with this guy, so she recorded him. And it was a 43-second recording, but we only got little bits, so we could see kind of how he walked, and we could hear his voice. And when I tell you that voice haunted my dreams, I'm not exaggerating. I would literally dream about it when I was really down the rabbit hole with this case. I would hear it in my dreams. And every time I hear it, it still kind of gives me chills. And especially now that I can put an actual face with it. But here is the infamous Down the Hill recording. Down the hill. Guys. Down the hill. Guys. Down the hill. So yeah, that was Bridge Guy. Basically the boogeyman for all these years. Everybody, especially in Delphi, they're looking at everybody. Could this be the guy? Could this be the guy? But somehow nobody ever thought Richard Allen was the guy. And it's just weird to watch that now and know they got him. And thank God. It's all very surreal still, right? So here's Bridge Guy. This is his mugshot. Richard M. Allen. He's 50 years old, from Delphi. Like I said, he works as, he's got his pharmacy technician license. It sounds like he was sort of a backup at CVS and worked more in the capacity of a shift leader, a shift manager type thing. But he worked at CVS there in Delphi. And when this happened and the family were printing off the posters, he actually printed the posters off for a member of the German family and told them there was no charge for it. How creepy is that? Apparently he's a pool player. He plays in a lot of tournaments, and the bar where he plays pool and hangs out is also a bar where Abby's mom hangs out. So, like I said, they're in this, it's a small community, it's a small town. And so there's been interactions. It's crazy to think about that. I don't know how he could face these people knowing that he did what he did. Apparently, shortly after the murders, he checked himself in to some sort of institution or rehab. I guess he's a recovering alcoholic, and he was in a institution type situation for 30 days after. And there's a lot of speculation that I can kind of get with, that the timing of it, maybe he did that because he didn't want to be recognized while it was still fresh. He just kind of removed himself from the situation. I don't know, but maybe he took those 30 days to process and get himself to the point that he could be back in that community and just go under the radar. whatever he did, it worked. So, a little bit of the timeline. Like I said, I found a really good timeline. Let's put the girls up here. Get rid of this guy. So this is Abby, and this is Libby. So Abigail Williams and Liberty German went missing at the Monon High Bridge in Delphi on February 13th of 2017. They were reported missing that evening, but an initial search turned up nothing. Now, if you remember, it was a massive search. A lot of people from the community were out there, and it was dark, and they didn't want to go home, but the police kind of shut it down because it was dark and it was getting cold and just wasn't safe, I guess, to be back, out in that area. February 14th, law enforcement and volunteers from all across the area joined the search for Abby and Libby. People in the community were on edge. There was concern that 2 girls in a quiet community could go missing, and there was fear something bad had happened. It wasn't until late on the 14th that police confirmed 2 bodies were found in an area along Deer Creek, just a ways east from the bridge. At the time, about 24 hours after they were reported missing, police would only confirm bodies were found and would not identify them. On February 15th of 2017, police confirmed the 2 bodies found were those of the missing girls. In documents later released, an FBI agent noted that pieces of clothing from one of the victims were missing and that it appeared the girls' bodies were moved and staged. There were no visible signs of a struggle or fight. The agent suspected a souvenir had been taken by the killer and that it was common for perpetrators to memorialize the crime scene with pictures. The FBI agent said investigators did recover fibers and unidentified hairs at the crime scene. Later, on February 15th, 2017, police revealed German's phone was found. On it, police believed were images of the suspected killer. They showed a man coming across the bridge towards the girls. In those early days, and at times later, investigators looked at the man who owned the property along where the girls were found. So I've got his picture here. For more than 50 years, Ron Logan lived on County Road 300 north near the trail that leads to the Monon High Bridge. People walk up and down there with their children. It's quite a nice little trail and bridge, Logan told 13 News at the time. The area they were in was very hard to get to. I mean, you can't get there unless you walk there. Somebody had to be walking with them or something. Logan's home was searched. An FBI agent speculated about his possible involvement in the homicides, but no evidence was ever found linking Logan to the murders. The FBI agent noted that 77-year-old Logan appeared to be in good physical condition, and his voice was not inconsistent with that of the voice captured on German's phone. The FBI agent also claimed that text messages sent to and from Logan's phone the evening of February 13th, 2017, showed he was likely outside his home and in the proximity of where Liberty and Abby's bodies were located. The agent noted that Logan had been physically able to get up and down the hill from his home to the crime scene when he met with officers on February 17th. The agent was specific that they believe Logan could be involved in the murders. I believe there is probable cause to believe that Ron Logan has committed the crime of murder, and evidence of that could be found on Ron Logan's property. On February 16th, the FBI got permission to search the entire property, including Logan's home, garage, his pickup truck, computers, and cell phones. A previous search of Logan's home on February 16th for a parole violation noted he had numerous weapons, including handguns and knives. Logan died in 2020 and was never officially named a suspect for the Delphi murders. So, in the search warrant, we learned that they were looking for digital evidence because they believe that there were pictures taken of the murder scene. And they were also looking for DNA and animal hair. So people are starting to wonder if Richard Allen could be linked through either digital evidence or possibly animal hair. And we know he has a dog and he had a cat and things like that. When they went to his house, they were digging up his yard, his flower beds, things like that. And we don't know what they were looking for. Some people have speculated it could be one of the animals that passed away was buried in the yard, or that he buried whatever souvenir he took from the crime scene, or even a weapon, or possibly whatever digital evidence there was. So we're not going to find out about that for quite a while, I don't think, because they have sealed the probable cause affidavit at least for 30 days. And then there's going to be a hearing to see if it is going to be unsealed. But they're keeping it all very close and tight to the vest. So it could be quite a while before we find out what they were digging for. But like I said, Ron Logan, he was under suspicion, and we learned quite a bit about what kind of evidence they had that they were searching for through that search warrant. But like I said, he was never charged, and he has since passed away. On February 18th, 2017, a memorial service was held for the girls. The community began mourning their loss. At the same time, concerns about a killer in the community remained. A week later, on February 22nd, 2017, police released audio from German's phone in which you hear a man say, "Down the hill." It wouldn't be until years later that we would learn the recording was 43 seconds long. Despite thousands of tips and assistance from Indiana State Police and the FBI, there were no arrests and few developments beyond the March 6th search of Logan's home. Then, on March 9th, police gave another update, and we heard from the family of Libby German. Soon, a month had passed since the killings, and then weeks more. The girls' school memorialized them with benches. A charity game was held in their memory, but police were no closer to finding their killers. Then, on July 17th, 2017, police released a first sketch of a suspect. A flurry of tips came pouring in, but as police crossed each one off, no arrests were made. In September of 2017, the girls' families went on Dr. Oz, pleading for tips and answers. On February 13th, 2018, Delphi marked 1 year since the killings. The community came together with hope for new tips for justice for the two girls. There were no significant updates in the case for another year. There was speculation when other similar cases came up, but they never led to a connection with Delphi. The case was going cold. Then, on April 22nd, 2019, Indiana State Police released an updated sketch. The sketch was vastly different from the original. It showed a younger man with curly hair and no goatee. Investigators also released additional audio of the suspected killer from German's phone. That's when they added the guys. Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter noted at the time that the killer was likely in the room or watching the news conference. He promised that he would one day be able to share all that investigators knew about the crime. Again, tips came pouring in, but there were no arrests. Another year passed, and then another, until 2021, 4 years after the girls' murders. It was seeming like another year would slip by until December of 2021. That's when police announced a possible break in the case. A fake social media account by the name of Anthony Schatz was found to have communicated with Germans shortly before the killings. So this was the Anthony Schatz profile picture. And this poor guy, he has nothing to do with it. He was apparently some sort of a model and is actually a police officer in Alaska now. But his picture was associated with the Anthony Schatz profile. That profile was communicating with teen girls and requesting pictures, CP type pictures. And this profile ended up getting traced back to this guy, Kegan Kline. So the account was linked back to a man who lived about 30 minutes away and was a suspect in a CP case. The case seemed to center around Kegan Kline, and that involved, the case seemed to center around that individual for much of 2022. He was questioned but denied having any involvement in the Delphi killings. That man was never charged, but there was activity not far from his home in late summer when a river near his home was searched. So they started, Kegan has been in custody, and he says he's not the one that talked to Libby that day. You know, he's tried to make it sound like other people had access to the phone, to the account, what have you. And then something happened, and they started searching the Wabash River, and Kegan was moved out of where he was being held, and we all thought he was finally cooperating. He even said something to the effect of waiting in a red Jeep for the person that actually did the killings. I don't know. But they started searching the Wabash River, and they searched it for weeks, and they found something, and we all thought, okay, this is it. You know, did somebody drive over the bridge and throw the weapon, the digital evidence, whatever? We don't know. And then nothing happened. We didn't hear anything. But we all assumed Kegan was cooperating. So it remains to be seen, and they wouldn't say at the press conference if he and Richard Allen are connected in some way, but Kegan's phone was literally right around the corner from Richard Allen's house at one point. So it's possible. Could just be a coincidence. I don't know. But it's hard to believe that Kegan leads them to search the river. They search the river, they find something, and then shortly after, we finally have an arrest. We finally figure out who Bridge Guy is. So probably a connection there, but right now that's all speculation. We're just going to have to wait and see. But the timing of everything is very interesting. On October 26th, law enforcement arrested 50-year-old Richard M. Allen of Delphi. He was formally charged with 2 counts of felony murder on October 28th and has pleaded not guilty at an initial hearing. He was taken to the White County Jail and is being held without bond. Allen's pretrial conference is scheduled for January 13th, and his trial is initially set for March 20th. So, very anxious for all of that to happen. here is kind of just a little map to give you an idea of how close this guy actually lives to the bridge. He could easily have driven there. He also could have easily walked there. If you look on his, well, you can't anymore because she took it down, but on his wife's Facebook, there are lots of posts. They regularly go hiking. You know, she was talking about a 5-mile hike where like she was exhausted, and, you know, rocks, waterfalls. You know, he's very outdoorsy. He has a hunting license and a concealed weapons permit. He's very familiar with the outdoors and navigating terrain. So, I mean, he could have literally walked there. This picture really upset me. So, this is him at the bar, and what's circled in the background is a poster of Bridge Guy. He's posing right there with Bridge Guy in the background. Not a care in the world. It's, ugh. And here he is. This is him. This is Bridge Guy, you guys. This is him. And when you look at it, and you think about the posters, and Doug Carter told us, you know, a sketch isn't a photograph. And when they came out with the younger Bridge Guy poster, he said Bridge Guy would be a combination of the two sketches, the older guy and the younger guy. And this guy really is. He really is. It's eerie. It's very eerie. And this post from Becky Patty, Libby's grandma, every day since this happened, she has posted a different picture and said, "Today's the day." And now she says, "I guess I'm kind of at a loss. Every morning I get up, get my coffee, and start looking for which photo will be the today is the day post. Now I sit here not needing to do it because at long last we have a face to go with our monster. I sit here wondering, now what? Where do we go from here? I realize our lives have again made a big change. We have a very difficult path to start down. It is a path we will gladly face, as we know each step taken is one step closer to our monster being convicted. Knowing that makes that walk so much easier. I want to thank everyone who has supported and prayed for our girls daily for 5.5 years, who never gave up, who grew to love them. I know they are smiling down on the world today, knowing it is a little bit safer. Thank you." Wow. I can't imagine what it's like for these families having to let it sink in that this is the guy and he's been part of their community. He could have been part of the search. I mean, he printed the posters. It's got to be very unsettling for them. And it would make me angry. It does make me angry, but if I were them, I would be so angry that, you know, this guy has interacted with me. He's looked me in the face. He may have had a conversation with me, knowing what he did. I know I don't have a psychopath's brain, but I can't wrap my mind around it. And I want to show you this because it disturbs me as well. I told you he's married and he has a daughter. So this is Libby. And this is his daughter. And as you can see, this picture is taken on the Monon High Bridge. And you can see that there's a lot of similarities between her and Libby. The hair color, the hair length, the body type. It's eerie. It's very eerie. And his daughter now has gotten married, and he got to celebrate that with her. And it's frustrating because I think of all of the experiences that this man has had in the last 5.5 years, and not just the experiences that he had himself, but that he's watched his daughter have, graduating from high school, getting married, things like that these two girls never got to do. They didn't get to graduate. They won't get to get married. Their families didn't get to see them achieve these milestones. These families will not get to be a part of their weddings or be there when they start their own families. That was all taken away by Richard Allen. But he's out there going on vacations and hiking with his family and playing in pool tournaments and living his life like nothing even happened. It's awful to think about. But that's what has happened over the last 5.5 years. This man hid in plain sight. People have come out that worked with him at different times at the CVS, and they said he was really nice, that he joked around a lot, he was pleasant. There was nothing about him that was suspicious. When the murders would be talked about, he didn't act, paranoid, jittery. He didn't give anything away. And people are shocked. And I know Doug Carter said people were going to be shocked when we found out who it was. And these people are now going back and saying, I was in such close proximity to this guy. I worked with this guy. I talked to this guy, things like that. And never suspected him for a second. And I know a lot of people are going to say, like, oh, his wife had to know. And no, I've said it in other videos, BTK is my big example. He had a position in the church. He was a Boy Scout troop leader. He had kids. He had a wife. He had a job. Sometimes they're just very good at hiding in plain sight, and this guy obviously was. It's weird, though, that he doesn't have a criminal history. He's been caught for like speeding violations and things like that. Now, that's not to say that there aren't other victims out there that we're just not aware of yet. But he doesn't have a violent criminal history. Apparently he likes to drive fast, but that seems to be the worst thing this guy has ever been caught doing. So there's just a lot about it that, it really, it's hard to wrap your mind around. It was very surreal to know that this was the guy, and it's not anybody that any of us have ever even considered. But at least they got him. It seems like whatever they got him on is strong. He's being held without bond, so there's no worry about him getting out. And I'm looking forward to finding out more. I really want to know the connection with Kegan Kline and how they finally found this guy. What led them to him finally? Did somebody finally say something? Because it's felt like for 5.5 years, they've needed one final piece to the puzzle. They were just waiting on one thing. And whatever that was, apparently they got it. And I just wonder if it was from Kegan. Kegan is a POS, but if he is what led to the arrest of this guy, you got to give him a little bit of credit. A really little bit. But finally, we're on the road to justice for Abby and Libby. And I'm so happy. I'm so happy for the families and the girls that finally there's an answer. It doesn't change what happened. They'll probably never really have closure. But at least now they know. At least now they know. So keep the families in your prayers because this is just going to get crazy for them. And, you know, thank God for these investigators that just, they didn't quit. They didn't give up. They didn't stop. They never lost hope. They knew they were going to get this guy, and they did. So thank God for them. But that's about it. Like I said, if you want me to play the press conference for you so we can kind of go over it, let me know. I know a lot of people had it on today, so I didn't play it because I figure you probably already saw it. But if you didn't, let me know in the comments. And like I said, let's keep these families in our prayers. Thank God that this guy was caught, but let's just pray that, you know, they've got a little more comfort now, but pray that they have the strength to get through what's coming next. And like I said, it is Halloween, so happy Halloween to everybody. Enjoy looking at the little trick-or-treaters when they come to your house tonight. If you're going out to do something, be safe and have fun. And I will try to get some footage from our ghost walk for you and share that with you. I am super excited about it. I look forward to learning about the hauntings, and of course we're hoping that one of the ghosts shows up, but I will let you know about that. So for now, give this a thumbs up and share it. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell to all so you get notified whenever I upload about any of the mini cases that we're covering here. And if you'd like to, join our membership. And other than that, have a happy Halloween, and I will see you all in the next one.